Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Hour number 2, Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Half the work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We are now working towards the weekend. I told y'all earlier this week I'm out next week, so it's kind of getting toward the second half of this week. Start getting that senioritis setting in for vacation, but I'll get there. I got a lot to talk about in this hour, and we'll get a couple more days, and then we'll unwind for about a week, and then back in action for a little bit before we head off to SEC Media Days. And by the time we get to Media Days, it's kind of full steam ahead. There's only 1 week between Media Days and LSU reporting, and in that week, the Saints report. So we're going to get to the end of the summer one way or another. I think that there are probably a few of you that would like to do that because you're excited about football or you just want to get the kids back into school. But either way, we'll get there one way or another. I got a couple more days, and then we'll head off for a week's worth of vacation. But not vacation right now. Let's talk. Let's talk about the Texas Longhorns. LSU and Texas will play this year. And it's something that we were going to get in 2020, but because of COVID and the fact that you played just conference schedules, it was taken away. So on November the 14th, LSU and Texas will do battle. And obviously the circumstances are going to be a little bit different than they were for that scheduled matchup back in 2020. In 2020, Steve Sarkisian was at Bama, and Lane Kiffin was at Florida Atlantic. So that was a long time ago for those two coaches. Now they're running two of the biggest brands in the sport, and they've got a lot of expectation on them entering this season. Texas went 9-3 last year. If they had scheduled Rice instead of Ohio State, they're probably a playoff team for the second year in a row. But they went to Ohio State in week 1, and I think they scored 7 points, and they lost the game. And they were 9-3, and they had a loss to Florida, and they didn't get in. It didn't matter that they had beaten Oklahoma, who went to the playoff. They didn't get in. They beat Vanderbilt, who went 10-2. Didn't get in. And they're expected to get in this year. Now, you've got 6 Longhorns that were drafted last year. 4 of those were defensive starters that were taken in the top 5 rounds. Anthony Hill at linebacker, Trey Moore. You also had 6 more players sign on undrafted free agents content. It's not the exodus that they had from the 2025 team that did make the playoff and beat Clemson and advanced in the playoff. It's not that, because that team had 12 players drafted. But you realize that they've now had 18 players drafted in the last 2 years. They are putting together big-time NFL talent-rich rosters in Austin, Texas. NIL is their friend. Steve Sarkisian recruits very hard. And they've, generally speaking, got a lot of dudes who were going to play NFL football. And Arch Manning is one of those. It was interesting to watch Arch, for lack of a better term, through last year. Because if you remember, they went to Ohio State, as I said, and he threw for 170 yards in that game, and they couldn't score. They scored 7 points. 2 weeks later, they played UTEP, and Arch completed 44% of his throws and turned the ball over for the 3rd time in 3 games. It just looked really, really bad. They went to Gainesville to play Florida. He threw 2 more interceptions, and Texas was anemic offensively. And I sat in this chair and said, look, this is just a miss. This guy, he's been in college a couple of years. His throwing motion doesn't look great. He's inaccurate. They don't move the ball. His decision-making's bad. They turn the ball over. This looks terrible. And then they played Mississippi State. And Mississippi State had one of the worst defenses in the league, but Texas lit it up that day against a bad defense. And from the Mississippi State game moving forward, Arch Manning averaged 286 yards a game through the air. He threw for 15 total touchdowns, and he ran for 5 more, and Texas went 5-1. So it was a very encouraging close to the season for Arch Manning in Texas. He didn't light it up against Texas A&M, but they won the game in Austin and did enough to finish the season strong. So now you look at mock drafts, you look at big boards, you look at the NFL draft for 2027, and you see a lot of Arch Manning at the top. And the fact of the matter is this: right, wrong, indifferent, fair, foul, whatever you want to say, the expectation when he signed at Texas was that Arch Manning and Steve Sarkisian would get this program over the hump. You had the coach. He was bringing the swagger. He's wearing the fancy orange jackets. He's got the Lamborghinis parked out there for the recruiting weekends. They're blowing all this NIL money. You've got the coach who's going to change the trajectory. And now he's got his quarterback. This is going to be the ticket. Ewers is a big deal. Arch Manning was a bigger deal. And this is probably their last year together. Arch comes from a little bit of different set of circumstances. His family doesn't need the NFL money. He doesn't need the NFL money. He's probably doing just fine from an NIL perspective. But he doesn't have to go chase cash in the NFL. But I think everyone imagines this will be his last year. So this is the year where if those two are going to do it, Sark can still do it, but if those two are going to put Texas back on the map and those two are going to compete and win a championship, it has to be this year. And if they're going to do that this year, it's going to come in front of some hostile crowds. Because, yes, they do host Ohio State this year instead of travel to Ohio State, so you don't have to go to that gauntlet in the shoe. You are going to go to Knoxville and play in front of 102,000. Tennessee may be awesome. They may be average, but you're going to play in front of 102,000 in Knoxville. I don't know what LSU is going to be either. Might be great, might be average. But there's going to be 102,000 in that stadium when Texas shows up. And I don't know what Texas A&M is going to be. But I can promise you, to close out the season, there will be 103,000 in Kyle Field for that game. 3 times you're going to have to go on the road to 100,000 and deal with that. And oh, by the way, you will also play Oklahoma, a playoff team from last year, in the Cotton Bowl, which seats 92,000, and half of that will be against you. So 4 times you're leaving Austin to play in front of less than hospitable crowds. And plus, Ole Miss comes to you, and I think they're going to be decent. So the schedule is not light. A lot of people suggested 2 years ago, Texas' first year in the league, they got off light. A lot of people suggested that. Not this year. Like, this is a gauntlet Texas is going to have to run. And it's going to involve 3 of the more hostile environments: Kyle Field, Death Valley, Neyland Stadium, in the sport. Now, you could suggest, like, you got to do that anyway. You either got to go to Georgia, or you got to go to Florida, or you got to go to Bama, or you got to go to Auburn, or you got to go to Tennessee, or you got to go to Texas, or you got to go to Baton Rouge. Like, there are a lot of those in the league, and that's true. But this certainly qualifies. So it'll be a talented team. It's a now experienced quarterback. It's a brutal schedule. Is this the team that gets Texas back into conversation for a national title? I don't know. I'm curious about the discourse around Texas in media days. I'm curious. There are a number of teams I'm curious about when we get there. What do people think about Texas? What do people think about Oklahoma? I'll see what they think about LSU, but I got a pretty good handle on LSU. What do people think about Alabama? What do people think about Tennessee? What do people think about Missouri? And Ole Miss, maybe more so than any. There are a lot of teams that are very, very interested. And I think that Texas is right among the top of those, because there were so many years where media days came and went, and I didn't go for a long time, but I was in this chair and reacting to everything that was going on, whether it was in Hoover or Dallas or wherever the case may be. And for a lot of years, like 5 or 6 there in a row, it was like, okay, here's Georgia and Bama. Like, who else do we want to talk about? Georgia, Bama, Georgia, Bama, Georgia, Bama, Bama, Georgia, whatever else. That's not really the case anymore. Like, Georgia looks mortal. Bama won the COVID year, but it's been a minute. And Kalen DeBoer's in year 3, and he's lost 8 games. Like, I talked about this yesterday. There's just more intrigue. It feels more open. And I don't know if that's a product of NIL. I don't know if that's a product of the portal. I think it's probably some of both. But Texas is in that mix of like, all right, what are you going to be? You going to show up and be big and bad? Or are you going to be kind of the underperformer that you have been at times? And I think it's fascinating. I'm curious what the narrative is around the Longhorns when we get to Tampa next month for Media Days. That's a look at LSU and the Texas Longhorns. 3 things there. You can read my little three bullet points on every LSU opponent, beginning with the opener in Clemson all the way now through Texas with a couple more to go, over for free at louisianasports.net. All right, I did some research this morning. I think you'll be interested in this. The new 5-for-5 rule passed yesterday, so it's going to be implemented. What does that mean for LSU basketball this year? I've got birthdays. I've got thoughts. What does it mean for LSU baseball in the draft? I've got thoughts. What does it mean for LSU football? I've got thoughts with some data to back it up, so we'll talk about the 5-for-5 rule when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Lifetime Roofing, LifetimeRoofingLA.com, LifetimeRoofingLA.com. Lifetime Roofing offers, you guessed it, a lifetime warranty. That's on the craftsmanship as well as the materials, and those materials are backed by CertainTeed, one of the oldest and most trusted names in building materials. If you're looking for a new roof, maybe you're trying to move, but you think your roof is a little bit old, want to increase the resale value of your house, you want to buy a roof, you can do that through my friends at Lifetime Roofing. They offer financing if you're looking to do that. Maybe you just need a fortification. You're not going anywhere, but you think your roof's a little bit older and may not be ready for storm season. They can do a tune-up to fortify that roof. Let them do an inspection if you're not sure what you need. They can do that as well. And oh, by the way, they do gutters, they do siding, they do windows, whatever it is on the outside of your home that you think needs freshening up, Lifetime Roofing can do it. Check them out online at LifetimeRoofingLA.com. That's Lifetime Roofing, LifetimeRoofingLA.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge, swingeasygcbr.com. Great place to hang out with some friends. Weekend is around the corner. I think that's fair to say. We're on the back half of Wednesday now. If you don't have a tee time but want to implement some golf into your weekend plans, go see them on Perkins. At Segan by Perkins, right there at Swing Easy Golf Club. You can get that private bay. They've got the comfortable seating there. Got a television you can fire up if you want to watch some World Cup. You can also play some tunes. They got the turtle boxes in there. You can play dozens of courses on the simulator. If you've never given it a try, go by and see them at Swing Easy. It's a cool experience, a lot of fun. They'll serve you a cold beer in there. They'll serve you a seltzer. They got wine as well. So you can make an afternoon or an evening out of it. That's the beauty of Swing Easy Golf Club. You can play at night. Doesn't matter if it's dark outside. You're inside over at Swing Easy Golf Club. I love playing Pebble Beach, Cypress Point. I've given a spin over at TPC Sawgrass as well. You can play Bethpage Black. There are plenty of other courses, including one where they give out that jacket every April. You can play that one as well. It's Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. They're on Segan at Perkins, swingeasygcbr.com. All right, so this took a little bit of research, and as I've mentioned a couple times today, I could not get this segment done yesterday because the news broke while I was on the air. I needed to ingest what it was they were trying to accomplish and then look at it from an LSU perspective, and that's the 5-for-5 rule. I always tell y'all when a new rule is implemented, my first thought is, okay, how does that affect LSU? That's where my head goes. Not what's best for the student athletes, not what's best for the season ticket holders. My initial thought is always, that's just the way I'm wired. What does that mean for LSU? Well, let's get into it. So what does it say? What does a 5-for-5 rule say? It says you've got 5 years from one of 2 points. 5 years from when you graduate high school or your 19th birthday. Whichever one comes first, you've got 5 years to play college athletics from there. And that does mean, yes, you can play 5 seasons. There are no red shirts. There are no gray shirts. Doesn't matter if you transfer. It's 5 years to play 5 from either your 19th birthday or your high school graduation. That's it. Those are the rules. So when does it go into place? Well, they laid that out. If you just finished your 4th year of eligibility this past school year, which just ended last month, you're done. This rule does not apply to you. So if you're talking about Seth Dardar, you're talking about Zach York, that just finished up 4th year of college athletics, played 4 years, you're done. You don't get 5 to play 5. You're done. So that's one class, okay? If you're currently enrolled and you have eligibility remaining, you now get a 5th year. If you're currently enrolled, you get a 5th year if you want it. If you are a prospective student athlete that will graduate from high school this year or next year, you are now in the model. You get 5 years to play 5 or 5 years after your 19th birthday. If you graduated from high school prior to this spring, then the NCAA's Eligibility Center is going to review your individual circumstances and look at what works for you. This is where LSU basketball comes into play, because these professional players from overseas are beyond their 19th birthday and are beyond high school, but have not enrolled at LSU. Make sense? So they are going to have to be monitored. So I looked into this. Yam Madar is 24 years old. He turns 25 on December 21st of this year. Under the new rules, his 24th birthday last December would have exhausted his eligibility, right? Because that's 5 years from your 19th birthday. You turn 24, you're done. So he would be done under these rules. However, LSU is going to go back and say, okay, but you put a provision in here that says if you have a religious reason, a military reason, or some other reason they need to evaluate, then, okay, you can appeal. So what LSU is going to do is say, yes, he would have been ineligible in December of last year moving forward. However, he served in the military for 2 years. Take those 2 years off. He's got time to play. He gets 1 season. That's what LSU is going to say. And that's going to have to go through the NCAA. The other two here are Marcio Santos and Bryce Desert. Marcio Santos turns 24 on November 2nd. That is 5 years from his 19th birthday. November the 2nd. That's basically right at the start of college basketball season. So I think that's a question mark. Now, Santos was being recruited by Kentucky. He was being recruited by other schools that plan to get him eligible. And LSU feels like they can get him eligible. But by these new rules, that's questionable. And then Bryce Desert turned 23 on March the 25th. So he turns 24 next March 25th, which is basically the end of the basketball season. That, to me, feels like he should get a year. It's unlikely LSU's basketball team plays until March 25th. It's possible. It's unlikely. That would get you into the Sweet 16 Elite 8. But I feel like he's got a good chance to be eligible. So these are all going to have to be heard. And as I mentioned earlier this week, the new ruling declares that all eligibility waivers must be filed by July 31st. LSU has got 6 weeks to get that done. Madar, they're hoping for the 2 years for military, which is it's written in. If there are military obligations that have been fulfilled, we'll evaluate. Desert, well, he'll enroll in time, but what does it mean for his birthday that's coming up in March? I think he's okay. Santos is questionable. It will all be cleared up pretty quickly moving forward. But LSU is going to try to sneak these in toward the end. Michael Ruzick is another foreign player that's coming in. He's only 19 years old. He's fine. He's probably got 5 years to play. But these guys are questionable. So that's what LSU is going to have to sort out by November. Now, we talked about baseball yesterday. I'll briefly mention it as well. I was looking at more slot stuff from last year's draft, and I found a few things from seniors. Like Julian Tughani from Arizona was the 6th pick of the 7th round last year. The slot value was $300K. He signed for $10,000 as a senior. It hasn't happened a lot, but it still happens some. Keep in mind that later in that round, the Cubs took Pierce Coppola from Florida. He was a senior at a 4-year school. His slot was $278,000, and the Cubs paid him all of it. But this does allow for 4th-year players to maintain leverage and consider coming back for a 5th year. It does allow 3rd-year players to have another year of leverage the next year. However, you're running against the clock. This is what I mentioned earlier this year. And it's unlikely that Major League Baseball teams want to draft guys that are 23 years old, having played 4 years of college baseball, that you draft them in July, they go to rookie ball as a 23-year-old, they turn 24 in March, and they're in high A at 24 years old. They don't want to do that. So I don't think you're going to get major league prospects to hang around for 4 and 5 years. That's not going to be one of the consequences here. The names I used in my LouisianaSports.net feature today on this is not, in my opinion, going to keep Jared Jones and Thatcher Hurd at LSU for a 4th and 5th season. To me, those guys who are not first-round picks, not second-round picks, but draftable prospects with some professional tools, those guys are still going to sign after 3 or 4 years. The guys you might keep around for extra years in this format are Jared Poche, or Mason Katz, or Gavin Dugas. Louisiana kids, low ceiling on their professional career, might want to play a 5th year. Maybe. But you're not keeping Curiel here for 4 years. You're not often doing that. Stephen Milam's going to do it for 4 years. He won't do it for 5. He'll do it for 4 years. Every case is independent, and I can't throw a blanket over everything, but I think I'm just kind of illustrating what this rule is going to do to LSU athletes. The last one is football. And I gave this a lot of thought because while baseball players don't generally make a ton of money, they make good, certainly better than almost all college students, but nobody's making what Sam Levitt's making. Nobody's making what Jordan Seaton's making. That's not the type of money you're making in baseball. In football, you can make some life-changing money. In baseball, you can make some, this is a nice nest egg money. This is a nice way to start my life at 24 years old. I can put a significant down payment down on a house money. Not like, I can live off the interest of this for a while. But there are some players that I was looking at that would you come back to play another college season with big football NIL as an opportunity? Like Jarek Bernard Converse had an all-conference year at LSU. Wasn't going to be a huge draft pick. Would you come back for another year? Garrett Dellinger on the offensive line. These were 5th, 6th, 7th round picks. 5th, 6th, 7th round picks sometimes end up on a practice squad making bottom barrel NFL stuff. Sometimes they get cut. You can come back and make $500, $600K at LSU. Maybe an option. Jacoby and Guillory came back and played at LSU. 6 years. Wasn't a draftable guy. So I think you could see that. Kickers, punters, that type of deal. But again, I don't expect starting players at LSU oftentimes to spurn the professional ranks to stay for 5 years in college. Because most of these guys, regardless of what happens to them when they get to the pros, most of them believe they're going to be pros. They're going to be NFL guys that play 3, 4, 5 years, get to that second contract. Even if they're not, they think that. That's why you've seen guys leave after 3 years that don't get drafted or in the 7th round. Think about Freak Johnson and Malachi Dupree and those type of guys. R.J. Lewis from St. John's that's playing for the basketball team are trying to next year. They said, don't go in the draft. Don't go in the draft. Big East Player of the Year, don't go in the draft. He did. Didn't get drafted. They think that they will a lot of times. So I don't think it's going to keep a lot of guys around for a long time. But it does change the circumstances in some instances that could give guys some things to think about. The most pressing issue for LSU right now in this perspective is absolutely the international basketball guys. I think they've got a case on all of them. Whether or not they'll win them remains to be seen. Wednesday show is brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. They're online at builtbyrenaissance.com. Builtbyrenaissance.com. We will transition to the Saints next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC, FabryChevrolet.com. That's FabryChevrolet.com. I told you back in the first hour about the great deals that they've got on SUVs. But they've also got awesome deals on trucks in June. And oh, by the way, it's the 24th, so get by to get these deals. Looking for a 2026 Chevy Silverado at 0% APR financing now until the end of the month? You can do that. It's a 36-month deal, 0%. 2026 GMC Sierra 1500, 72 months at 2.9% now to the end of June. They've also got Chevy Trailblazer, Chevy Trax for as low as $30,000. Great staff there at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. You'll have a wonderful buying experience. Great deals, as I mentioned. The inventory is all there at FabryChevrolet.com. So make that short drive up Highway 61 in St. Francisville and go see my friends at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. They're online at FabryChevrolet.com.
Discover Greystone Country Club, Denham Springs' premier private retreat, just 10 miles from Baton Rouge. Experience 18 challenging holes of magnificent golf on this lake and streamlined course, plus practice facilities, driving range, chipping, putting, and pro instruction. There's a resort-style pool, children's spray park, tennis and basketball courts, playground and fitness area. Host your dream wedding, banquet, or tournament with top-notch services. Visit GreystonecountryClub.com or tour the grounds in person.
Ask your family dentist. Do your research to help choose the best solution if you have missing or failing teeth. Hi, this is Dr. Leo Reagan at Fusion Implant Center.
And I'm Dr. Michael Casadaband. We provide comprehensive care from start to finish. As board-certified dental specialists and licensed physicians, we take care of your needs in the most complete manner possible.
Safe, done correctly the first time, but also here for a second opinion to help guide you and possibly eliminate the need for any redo or revision surgery.
Clearly, it's less costly, less time-consuming, and with considerably less risk to have your treatment designed and performed correctly. The first time at Fusion Implant Center.
Call us for your consultation today and let us show you why our technology and expertise is superior. We are the only team of specialists in Louisiana that do what we do.
So don't put this off any longer. Call us or visit FusionImplantCenter.com. because one moment can change a day.
And one day at Fusion Implant Center can change your life forever.
Some call it over-planning. At Boudreaux's Electrical Services, it's called foresight. Be prepared for the next power outage with a Generac Home Standby Generator. After sensing a power outage, a Generac Home Standby Generator automatically restores your home's power, whether you're home or away. Generac, it's not just a generator, it's a power move. Family owned and operated for over 40 years in Louisiana, Boudreaux's Electrical Services is your local Generac expert. Make the power move. Go to boudreauxelectrical.com to get started.
Spring is here. The grass is starting to grow and you need to mow now with 0% for 42 months retail financing on the new Hustler zero-turn mowers. That's right. Qualified buyers can enjoy 0% financing for 42 months on qualifying Hustler zero-turn mowers. Come in to Gotros Outdoor Power today and get that Hustler Turf zero-turn lawnmower you've been dreaming of. That's Gotros Outdoor Power. GotrosOutdoorPower.com. Qualified buyers with minimum purchase. Other restrictions apply. See dealer for complete details.
Looking for the perfect place to host your next event? Whether it's a conference, a wedding, a fundraiser, or teen gathering, Renaissance Baton Rouge has you covered. With 13,000 square feet of flexible meeting space, we'll accommodate everything from intimate gatherings to grand affairs for up to 5.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Highland Insurance Group, they're online at highlandig.com. That's highlandig.com. Jonathan Carbo has an awesome team there at the Highland Insurance Group. They're technical experts in the insurance game. You know, a lot of times when renewal time comes up, you get a couple of proposals and you take a look and you flip to that back page and see what the premium's going to be, and that influences the decision heavily. And they understand that at the Highland Insurance Group. Premium's always going to be a priority there at the Highland Insurance Group, but it's never going to be the only priority. They want to make sure their clients are taken care of. They're experts in reading coverages. They're experts in understanding what carriers want what risks. And they can make sure that your business is placed properly at the right price with the right coverage. The last thing you want to do is pay great money for insurance and then have what you believe to be a covered loss and have to come out of pocket for that. That's not going to happen at the Highland Insurance Group. They'll make sure to explain to you what's covered, what's not, offer you the reasonable solutions to your risk problems, and then you can decide what it is you want to do. It's the Highland Insurance Group. Storm season's here. They know it. Want to look at your property policy? You can do that for sure. They're online at highlandig.com, based here in Baton Rouge. They can help you out statewide. It's the Highland Insurance Group, online at highlandig.com. And Ross Jackson's got a piece up at louisianasports.net about Bryan Bresee and the Saints. And what he's saying is that the Saints, after picking up Bresee's fifth-year option, which they did back in April, added players that complement Bresee's pass rush ability so that he can fulfill his potential in the middle of the Saints' defensive line. Second-round pick Christian Miller is a prime example of a guy that is a space filler in the middle of a defense. He can come in, occupy space, occupy blockers, and let Bresee use his quickness and explosiveness to get into the backfield. That's something they didn't really have. Like, Josh Ridgway doesn't really offer that. Christian Boyd doesn't really offer that. Now, we don't know about Vernon Broughton and what the Saints are going to do with him, but we understand that he's a big body, 6'5", 311. Bo Davis likes his skill set. He coached him in college, brought him in to the Saints in the draft last year. And what you're going to do is try to allow Bryan Bresee to work one-on-one as often as he can. That means the guys in the middle have to occupy multiple defenders. That means the guys on the edge are going to have to win and draw attention, slide those protections. And you feel like you've got that with Chase Young. Cam Jordan had a productive year last year. You added two guys in the offseason, Wilson and Jennings, to come in and be disruptive on the edge, to allow Bryan Bresee to do what he does best in the middle. There's been a bit of a progression for Bresee. He's still not a great run defender, but he is better. And what that's allowed him to be is a three-down player. He played a lot last year. Bresee played 668 defensive snaps. That was in 15 games, and he ranked 28th out of all qualifying interior defensive linemen in the NFL, missing 2 games. So that tells you that he is one of the most durable and usable defensive tackles in the NFL. He just needs his skill set to be complemented. And that is going to need to come with dynamic players around him so that he can use his one-on-one quickness and athleticism to make plays in the backfield. That's when Bryan Bresee is at his best. We have reached the point in Bryan Bresee's time in New Orleans where he is faded into the background because there's always buzz around first-round picks. And that first year, you're hoping it's a star. In that second year, you're hoping there's been some improvement. And by that third year, they should be a stalwart on the defense or on the offense. And while Bresee kind of was, like, the production wasn't awesome, the PFF grades against the run weren't great. The sack numbers were good, but he's not, Aaron Donald here. Not Fletcher Cox here. Now, there are other new shiny toys on this defense to look at. And Bresee's just kind of an afterthought to a lot of people. But if you look at the Saints' defensive tackle rotation, and I give you a group that's Devon Godshaw, Bryan Bresee, Christian Miller, John Ridgway, Christian Boyd, Vernon Broughton maybe. Well, Bresee's like the most gifted guy among that group. Maybe Miller. Godshaw's a little bit past his prime. But you're looking at a guy that you expect to be the best defensive tackle on your team. It's time to be that. I was impressed last year with his durability, the amount of snaps he was able to play, and his run defense got better. But I still think you might need more from Bryan Bresee if the Saints are going to be what they can be. And now you have a decision to make on him because you've extended the 5-year option, so you've got him for a 5th year. Is he part of your long-term plans? And this may be me because I'm not covering the Saints every single day from like inside the facility. I'm certainly talking about him. I'm certainly reading about him, but not like I'm not there. I don't hear a lot about Bryan Bresee. I don't hear a lot of scuttlebutt about his contract. I hear that about Chris Olave. I heard that about Alvin Kamara. But I don't hear it about Bresee all the time. And that's a bit of a bummer. And you could suggest that they drafted Christian Miller to maybe replace those snaps. That he and Vernon Broughton are maybe the future on the inside if Bresee doesn't make strides. But ideally, in a perfect world, he establishes himself as the best interior defensive lineman on the roster. He garners that extension, and you bring him back at age 25 on a 3-year deal to be a linchpin in the middle of your defensive line. He's only 24. He'll turn 25 in October of this year. He's not an old player. And he's playing at a position where you can play into your 30s. You don't have to run with wide receivers here. You got to be strong. You got to have some quickness. And you got to be sure tackler. He can rush the passer. He's got to do everything else. And I just felt like it was important to talk about him today because I also feel like we just don't talk about him a lot. And he was a first-round pick in 2023. It's a Dennis Allen pick, but it just hasn't blossomed into what it could be when you consider the pass rush tools of somebody that big at 6'5", 305. Maybe this is the year, because of the pieces they've added around him and what that may free up for him, that he blossoms into something that's better than what he has been. And that would certainly be a welcome thought. I told you last week that my biggest concern on this team was probably at linebacker and corner. Defensive tackles in that conversation as well. Godshaw's still there to be an old head, and you've done some work in the draft there the last 2 years. But Bresee standing out would be a really cool thing if the Saints could figure that out. We'll see. That's our look at Bryan Bresee. You can read about him in Ross's piece over at LouisianaSports.net. Reminder, LouisianaSports.net is free all the time. Just go check it out. Want Saints coverage? We got it. LSU coverage? We got it. Football, basketball, baseball, it's all there. As well as and you can go check out the SEC news as well. All there at LouisianaSports.net. Step aside. We'll come back and close out the show next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Renaissance Homes and Pools, built by Renaissance.com. That's built by Renaissance.com. I love telling you about my guy, Joey Blanchard. He's awesome, and Renaissance Homes and Pools are awesome. He can build the pool of your dreams if that's what you're looking for. No matter what stage of life you're in, no matter what you're looking for from that pool, he can build it for you. But it's not just new pools. They'll also come in and remodel your pool. They can remove and reinstall new plaster. That usually has to be done every 10 to 15 years. If your plaster's fading or if it's peeling, they can come in and take it out, reinstall the new, and they don't even have to remove the water main line. Like, that's something that may be good to do if your pool's 10 or 12 years old. But new waterline tile and plaster can make your pool look brand new. That remodel could expand to decking and your pool equipment. You can add automation, pumps, heaters, lights, valves, all there from our friends at Renaissance Homes and Pools. Check out the great work they do at builtbyrenaissance.com and text Joey. I'll give you his number. He's the owner of the company. That's who you'll deal with. That's who you'll talk to. Shoot him a text at 225-252-7745. That's 225-252-7745. That's Renaissance Homes and Pools. They're online at builtbyrenaissance.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
approaching the finish line here on this Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Been a busy show. Tomorrow we'll talk to Luke Johnson about the black and gold. As I told y'all earlier on in the show today, I was checking in on LSU baseball in the transfer portal earlier today, and I don't expect any breaking news today on the transfer portal. I would think that there could be some in the next couple of days based on conversation I had earlier today. I know that there have been conversations. I know that there have been visitors. I know that LSU is actively looking for pitching. And you also know that the MLB draft is coming up here in a couple of weeks. So there are a lot of things to juggle, but LSU is going to dip into the transfer portal, I believe, for another pitcher or two. And I think there could be some news by Saturday or so, but I wouldn't expect any today based on the conversation that I had. It's obviously there are a lot of folks that are in the ring for Thomas Allen. He is from Benton, up just north of Bossier, went to Louisiana Tech. He has visited Ole Miss. He has visited Arkansas. He has visited Tennessee. He's going to visit LSU. Texas was in the mix as well. So that's a guy that people are looking at. I think that LSU is certainly going to be in the mix there, and I hope so. But as of this point, nothing significant. We'll get into some of that tomorrow as well. We'll see what the Pelicans do tonight. Sounds like they are pretty quiet down there in Joe Dumar's world. Not a lot going on last night for the Pels as they held on to all their assets, did not move into the first round to make a splash there. So a lot of quiet talk there. We'll see if they do anything tonight. But still a lot to get to over the course of the last couple of days of this week. For today, all we got left is take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it or leave it.
All right, so college football 27 releases July 9th.
Okay.
They come out with team overalls as well as stadium ranks, which is the toughest places to play in the country.
Okay.
See, LSU is rated 88 overall with
That's really high, isn't it?
an 89 overall offense and an 87 overall defense. Are these valid overalls for LSU going into the season? Take it or leave it.
I hope so. I'll take it. Sounds very good. Numbers that close to 90 is a very good thing. My video gaming days are at the very least on pause. They may be behind me. I have not played that game in a decade, but I used to play it religiously in elementary school, high school, college, and even after college. I was all about Dynasty mode and all that, but I haven't played. Probably my last NCAA football game was
2014 was the last one made before
okay,
the
so they
newest
quit making it,
ones,
I forgot,
and
yeah.
then 2013 was yes.
It's been a minute, so yeah, I haven't played in a very, very long time. If the kiddos get into it and want me to grab the sticks, I'll do that when that time comes. But at 4.5, not really in the cards right now. So I think that sounds good to me. Where are we on stadium rankings? We got that
First.
We like that.
Yeah. So ever since the new ones have come out, I think it was 25, 26, and so this is the third one. All three LSU's been first.
I like that. Very good.
Actually, Sam Lev is actually I think 87. I think they also came out with him, but I don't know any other players to be honest. But
87's high. I like that. That's good. I hope they're that good. I
Hopefully,
remember
yeah.
very vividly one of my first football media days, which they don't do anymore. Not the SEC media days, when LSU football used to have its own media day, and we could go. They would line up every single player on the roster in number order with their jersey on, and you could go talk to whoever you wanted. They had all the coordinators available. It was just like free for all for like an hour. I remember Freak Johnson was up in arms.
Yeah.
Because it was his freshman year, and Jadeveon Clowney was a higher-ranked player than him. And Freak had just set the national sacks record as a high schooler. So he was very upset about that. I was going back and forth talking to him about their ratings, and it was a funny conversation. They were really into it, even though they weren't catching a check for it those days.
All right, so Oklahoma was a complete shock winning the national title this year. It was the first in over 30 years and second Omaha appearance in 5. Over the last 10 champions, none of them have made it back to Omaha the next season. Will Oklahoma continue this trend and not make it to Omaha next year? Take it or leave it.
Yes.
I'll take it.
I think that was a heater. It's a well-deserved championship. Those are the rules. You win, you play by them, you win. But they get a lot back from this team. I mean, the 3 guys they started are freshmen that'll be back. And then you've got Mercurius, who I guess is at least one of them will be back, if not both of them. So they'll have some talent. But I still don't buy that there's some sort of juggernaut that's going to jump right back. I mean, this year Georgia Tech, UCLA didn't make it.
Right.
I mean, it's hard to do. So I don't have them back in Omaha.
Let's see. So last one.
Yep.
So there has been a lot of buzz about the Pelicans trading leading up to the NBA draft and possibly trading to get back in the first round. Well, round 1 of the draft was last night, and the Pelicans did not make a trade to get back in the first. In fact, no trade at all was made for New Orleans. And you heard George's little rant yesterday. He kept it calm, kept it cool. So with no moves made so far, maybe they won't make a trade at all. Would Jordan be happy with this possible outcome?
I'll take it. I guess. I don't get it. Here's the deal. They were pretty healthy this year.
Yeah.
Zion
For the
played a
most
lot.
part, yeah.
Murphy did get hurt. Yeah, you had
Murray was hurt.
DeJounte Murray was hurt, yes. But, everyone has some injuries.
Right.
They were reasonably healthy, and they were terrible. They were nowhere close to relevant with a lot of the pieces you're trying to build around. Now, I get it. Tweed and Fears are going to be older. They're going to be better. I get that. But, wouldn't you want to add contemporaries of theirs?
Well, now you have a head coach. You had an interim for most of the year last year,
you
too.
can cheapen your roster a little bit and create some flex. I don't know. I feel like just running it back is just a waste of time. You're going to run it back to win 30 games? You're going to run it back to win 33 games?
Hopefully not.
That doesn't seem awesome to me. That seems like a team that's, once again, a complete non-factor in the NBA. And let's be honest about it. The Pels have been a non-factor in the NBA for a very, very long time.
Yep.
Their entire existence, basically. They had one good run with CP and David West, and then you had an Anthony Davis team that was decent, and then the team that made the playoffs a couple of years ago and got swept was decent. But, that's been basically it.
There's some players that we do need to get rid of. Some of them are too overpaid, and hopefully we can do something around that to save some money and kind of pay the other players that kind of need it, or even get other
it's
players.
Bad. And let's be honest, nobody trusts Joe Dumars to get this thing right. That didn't inspire any confidence. He may be the greatest general manager in the history of the NBA, but it'll be a pretty big upset if that's the case. Nobody's super stoked about that. So
if we're going to say one thing positive, I will say I do like last year's picks. I do like Fears and Queens. So there's
Looks
hope,
good.
but we'll have to see. That is it for Take It or Leave It.
No picks this year. Is what it is. That's it for Take It or Leave It. One more reminder brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. They're online at builtbyrenaissance.com, builtbyrenaissance.com. Outdoor kitchens, they love to do them at Renaissance Homes and Pools. So if you're looking for a new outdoor entertainment space, contact my guy, Joey Blanchard, and Renaissance Homes and Pools. Missed today's show? Catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Chris Blair came on to talk about his sit-down with Will Wade. It's going to air on LSU Plus tonight at 6 o'clock. Missed that, you can go catch that on demand. We also had a chance to break down Texas, talk about Bryan Bresee. It was What If Wednesday. Talked some injury with our friends over at Auctioner. So plenty to get to on this Hunt Palmer show from this Wednesday. That's it for us. Matt's going to drive you home next on After Further Review. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place for a Thursday edition.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
First American Bank and Trust, FABT.com, FABT.com. The beauty of First American Bank and Trust is that they're local. They started here in Southeast Louisiana 116 years ago. If that's not in the fabric of the community, I don't know what is. 116 years they've been here for you. So if you're looking for a bank with a local feel, First American Bank and Trust. You don't want to call your bank and get put on hold and then talk to some call center in Chicago or San Francisco. When you call your bank, you want to talk to somebody local. How about the decisions that are made by First American Bank and Trust? If you're trying to get a commercial loan, if you're trying to get a personal loan, you'll talk to somebody local and they'll make that decision locally in your community. No matter where you are in Southeast Louisiana, there is a First American Bank and Trust near you, 25 locations. Check them out online at FABT.com, FABT.com.